Welcome to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast, episode number 59. Today's podcast episode is a little bit different. It is my Facebook Live from last week where I do a live strategy Q&A. This week we're talking about pivoting your service-focused business. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's get right into the episode. I spent years building my interior design business trying to do all the things. The marketing, the networking, the free content, spending thousands of dollars on training and education, only to see minimal growth. After years of frustration, I finally started to ask, what am I missing? I had the systems in place for powerful growth. I had amazing clients. I had determination, drive, and commitment to spare. And yet, I wasn't seeing the success I desired. What if business is not about the doing? What if building a powerful business requires both powerful systems and something else, something deeper? I'm Amy Van Meel, and I'm on a journey to discover that something else. If you are ready to build a powerful business and do it knowing that your success is inevitable, join me as I share both the powerful systems I know work and my lessons and revelations as I discover that something deeper. Welcome, Changemaker, to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast. So Amy here, thanks for joining me today, Changemakers. If you are tuning in to me on the Facebook Live, I'm excited that you're here and thank you for your patience as we've been figuring out this video. Facebook has changed how they set everything up. So we're just rolling with the punches today. I'm trying to keep my microphone a little bit out of the way for those of you who are watching on Facebook, but it's going to be a little bit in the way because it's got to be in front of me so that y'all on the podcast can hear me later. So I wanted to talk about today. So first of all, let me backtrack. My name is Amy Van Meel. If you're not familiar with me yet, then thanks for joining me. I'm based in Canada. I don't need to tell you my whole backstory here, but I do want to tell you that if you're not familiar with the podcast, those of you listening to the podcast, you know this already. I do have a podcast called Dare to Begin Small and Mighty. You can find it on pretty much anywhere that you're streaming a podcast. And what I wanted to talk about specifically was just I've been watching what's happening in the world, and as I'm sure many of you have been feeling, I've been wanting to do more. I feel like, what I've been doing so far hasn't been enough in a way. I want to be able to help business owners such as yourselves be able to still, not have to close up shop in the middle of what's going on. So I was trying to think about, what that would look like, and a little quick backstory about why I started why this is the first Q&A. So thanks for joining me for the first one. But why I started this was I had an idea in mind for an accelerator program, and it's something that I was noodling on. It wasn't something that I was really ready to kick out into the world yet because I wasn't quite sure what that was going to look like. But I started an accelerator thought about starting an accelerator program, and then this whole COVID-19 situation happened. And my guy came running out of the shower one day and says, Amy, you need to get online. You need to start running some ads. You need to get in front of people. You can help people. And last week was tough for me. I'm sure it's been tough for many of you. Definitely not the only one here. But what I came out with it in essentially was that it's time for me to take some action. I needed to move out of where I was sitting and take some action. So that's what we're doing here today. So I wanted to talk about today, if you've got some questions, please post them. If you're listening to the podcast afterwards, obviously you can't post live questions, but what I would ask is if you have some questions that you want me to address on next week's live Q&A, please email them to me. You can email them to amy@daretobegin.net. Give me a little backstory about your business so I understand what it is that you do and the service that you offer, as well as if there's any, there are some businesses that have some very specific local, what's the word I'm looking for? Just local things that we need to pay attention to, right? Like if you're in rural areas, then maybe there's certain things that are not available to you. If you're in another country, say outside of Canada or outside of the US, perhaps there's some restrictions. So Just let me know some of that, and then let me know what you're struggling with so we can start to go through it together. These strategy sessions are intended to be high value. They're intended to be essentially my goal in each of these sessions is that I am bringing all of my experience and my very creative problem solving. And that's not to be, tooting my own horn, but I'm very good at coming up with creative solutions and looking at things differently, and to be able to bring that to bear and help you with your business. So that's what we're doing in these strategy sessions. So let's kick off today. Today I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to keep a topic here in front of us in case nobody joins us today. If you are joining us, thanks for joining. And if there are no cues, some people just like to listen and sort of gain some knowledge. So what I want to talk about today, let me have a sip of my coffee because it hasn't fully kicked in despite the speed of my speech. What I want to talk about today is how to pivot your service-based business. So everything is changing, right? We know that everything is changing. Everybody's work situation is changing. Even if you are not yet working remote, I imagine that the situation at work is either very stressful for you or, there's just concerns, right? My guy goes out to work every day. I work entirely from home. I've pulled my entire design business back into being everything from home right now. And so it's been trying to figure out, what does that look like? How do I feel about it if he's gone to work every day and I'm staying at home? So there's definitely a shift in that. But what I want to talk about is how you can pivot your service-focused business. So let me give you an example. As I mentioned, my interior design business, I've pulled it back entirely to be essentially remote. Effectively, I'm working from my office all the time. And what that means is I need to find a way to still be able to provide great design services for my customers, but do it in a way that we're not actually seeing each other face to face, which for me is an enormous challenge. When I meet with clients, a lot of what a lot of what I understand and what I glean from a client is actually from the face-to-face interaction and from seeing their space. Now, at the moment, the projects that I have, thankfully, are projects that are with clients that have been ongoing. So I understand the space, I understand the clients, but I still need to find a way to pivot that and bring it back to be something that I can do remote. So I want to talk about that today. And please, if you have some questions about how you can change or not change, but pivot your service-based business, please let me know. I'm definitely happy to answer those. What I have been, essentially what I've been doing with my business in particular is, so let me give you one example. It's a little bit difficult when we start talking about like lots of, all the possibilities of what's possible. One example, I have a pair of clients that I just adore. They wanted me to source a new bed for them. They had very specific requirements, and right at like about a week after we first met talking about what they were looking for, the entire world blew up, and this is what we're going on. So now we were trying to figure out, how do we find a product that works for them, bearing in mind that they're not going out, I'm not going out, and, how do we still make it work? So it took me about a week. It took me about a week to kind of figure out like, okay, how can I do this and what would be best for the client? I want that to be like when you're thinking about how to pivot your business, I want you to always keep in mind what's best for your clients. How can you serve them the best? So what I realized was that for this particular project, it would actually be better for us to do a custom bed. They had some very specific requirements, like I said, for this particular bed. And so I knew that I wouldn't find anything on the market no matter where I looked, even if we could go out and do shopping. And so I decided, I'm like, okay, we need to do this custom. But if we do it custom, I still need to be able to source materials and be able to talk with the clients about those materials. So what would that look like? So what I ultimately came up with for this particular project, and it's going to be a challenge, and thank goodness these are clients that I've had for a while, so it gives us a chance to practice, that essentially what I came up with is that I'll design the bed for them. Everything will be done electronically, so I'll have to reach out to the supplier. Won't be able to go there and see how they do things and the rest of it. So I'll have to try to do my best to communicate the design via email and via drawings. And then I'd need to order fabric samples that will be delivered to my home so I can see them here. And then when the ones that we like, I need to be able to forward them off to the clients. It is going to draw out our timeline significantly because we have to wait for things to come in. It's much more difficult to, for example, like materials, it's much more difficult to understand what a material looks like or feels like or like how it handles if we're doing it online. So it's going to take some time. But that said, my clients also understand the need for making sure that we are staying healthy, that we're not, becoming part of the problem, right? I don't want to say necessarily part of the problem, but part of the problem. And so what does that look like? So that's just one particular project. Essentially what I'm now looking at, I have a few other projects on the go, and I need to be able to still deliver what we're doing, but do so in a way that is respectful and adheres to the new, regime's not the right word, but the new reality that we're living in. So I definitely encourage you, like I said, post your questions if you're tuning in live. Thank you so much for tuning in live. If you are, if you have some questions about how to pivot your business, please let me know. And I'm going to see if I can, if you're just joining me live, we're having some issues with my Facebook Live. So, and Lord help me, I hope it's going to notify me when we do comments. I haven't done a Facebook Live, y'all, in maybe 6 months. And it doesn't feel like it's been that long ago, but everything's changed. So we're just rolling with it today. So yeah, so let's think about how could you pivot your business? I want to talk about some businesses that are extremely hands-on, that are not considered essential services right now. So something like perhaps massage. I'm not sure if chiropractic would end up being in that range. I know things like Reiki, I think you can do online, and forgive me if I'm misunderstanding that, but I believe you can do like virtual things like that. But things where you actually need to physically touch a person, those are going to be a real challenge right now, right? Because we're not meeting people face to face. So what could you do? What could you do to still maintain that clientele, still help people? I find that most people, especially when they're in a service-focused business, they want to help people. They want to make things better in some way, shape, or form. So how could you do that? So I had a friend of mine is a yoga instructor. She does yoga and mindfulness and all kinds of things. And I think she's really amazing. And she's been on my mind constantly the last 2 weeks because I know she does a lot of live yoga classes and mindfulness classes. And so, I keep thinking, this is me also reminding myself, I need to reach out to her. But what I've been thinking about for someone like that, for example, is to start hosting them online. If you are, now obviously with massage, you can't do an online massage, but what could you do to support your customers? How, are there techniques that you could teach them that would help them to maybe ease the pain or to stretch or to relax or, whatever that looks like? How could you create a situation that you're still helping your customers, but you're doing so essentially like how we're sitting here on Facebook, where you can do so on a live video, where you can do it with a live conference, or you could do it on a phone call. There's some things you can even do on a phone call. My coach, I've mentioned before that I work with a coach. If you've been listening to the podcast, all of the sessions now are fully, they go through FaceTime, because we want to make sure that we're keeping each other safe, keeping each other healthy. She has clients all over the world, so she does all of that regularly anyway. So that's not so much of an issue for her, but it was a change for me. I live in the same city as my coach, so the opportunity to be able to be there in person with her, losing that felt like it sort of took me a little bit out for a second, right? It took me a moment to adjust to that in our coaching session. So I want to, so if you have some questions, please send them off to me. It looks like we're a little low on viewers today, which is totally okay. And I do want to touch on that just especially for those of you listening to the podcast, because those of you, if you're tuning into Facebook, thank you so much for tuning in. And you may have had this thought as well. Coming into this, because there's been so much on the go on my end, I have a full-time job. I have the design business. I have this business. On top of all of that, I've been moving through my own set of emotions and adjusting to the reality myself as well. And I would love to tell you that I did it like a boss and it was totally fine, but that would be a bald-faced lie. And I'm not about lying to you guys. So, coming into this today, I kept thinking this week, I'm like, oh, Amy, you're behind the 8 ball. You needed to do more. You intended to start running some ads so people would know about it. Nobody's going to show up, right? Like all the fears that come through. I mean, hell, if I had started running ads a week ago, then I may still have those fears coming up. Then I'd be thinking like, oh my God, I spent this money on ads and nobody showed up. So I want to touch on that just a moment here, because if you're thinking about pivoting your business to do something more like what I'm talking about, where we're taking it online, I want to address that head on. It is possible that if you step into something like what I've done today, where I've been doing the Facebook Live, and by the way, I'll be doing these every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard, which depending on where you are in the world, you have to calculate that. But for me, it's 9 a.m. Mountain Standard. I felt the call to do this. I knew that this could help people. I knew that I could do some real good here. And it was a push essentially out of my comfort zone. I'm comfortable on video. I'm obviously comfortable on podcasts. I love talking with you guys every week on the podcast. But there's something about doing a live video. So this morning, for those of you in the podcast, you missed it, but the first few minutes of the live video, I actually had a live video scheduled that I couldn't get it to start. Facebook's changed how they done it, and so I couldn't figure out how to start the video. And then I couldn't get a live video started from my computer, which would be ideal, which would have me, instead of looking down at the video, have me looking up at the video, which is actually much better. But all of that wasn't working this morning. So I had to find a different way. And really that's what we're talking about today, is finding a different way. I want to share. So I have a story that I want to share with someone I was speaking with about a week ago. Before I go that route, I just want to say, if you're, whatever your business is, there is a way that you can bring something online. If you are on Facebook or on Instagram, you can do live videos. It's probably going to scare the shit out of you, and that's totally okay. And I encourage you to lean into it anyway. The world, every time I think about this, I think about Marie Forleo. The world needs that special gift that you have. And it took me a long time to really take that in, to really, I heard Marie Forleo talk about it for years, and it took me a long time to really take that in and be like, okay, I'm starting to understand what she's talking about. There are, I'm sure, many people in the world. There's more than 8 billion of us. So I can pretty much guarantee you there are other people out there that are providing a similar service, and maybe they're doing it better. Maybe they're reaching bigger audiences. Maybe they're more eloquently spoken. Maybe when they sit in front of the video, they have it all figured out and they have a whole polished team, and they're not, they don't have their phone propped up against their computer on their desk. It's totally possible. But I also believe that people are listening and tuning into this podcast and to this Facebook Live video because there's something about me that they need to hear. And that is not ego-driven. I don't believe I'm the best of anything in any way, shape, or form. But I do believe that you need to hear this. I think you need to hear this. You have something to offer. Your unique perspective, your unique blend of experience, the way that you approach things. You have something of high value to offer. And when we are, as a planet, pivoting where everybody is self-isolating, we are losing that connection that we have with other people, right? It's that for a lot of people is going to be a real struggle, especially if you're an extrovert. I'm an introvert, so being at home is actually right up my alley. Excuse me. And I'm super excited about that. But if you're an extrovert, you get your energy from being out amongst people. This is going to be a real challenge for you. So let's find a different way for you to connect, right? Let's find a different way for you to still offer some high value to your community, to your customers, to the world. I mean, it's unprecedented. If something like this had happened 100 years ago, we would not have the changes that were able to take place so quickly. We would not have been able to enact all the, I suppose, restrictions, but restrictions for public safety, right? Like it just, the world wouldn't have survived. It would have just shut down. Economies would have been broken. So I have been saying from the start of this whole COVID-19 situation, it's scary. So let me just front this. It's scary. I am not downplaying it any way, shape, or form. I don't want anybody to misunderstand this and think that I just, I'm being very flippant about it. But I have said from the beginning that this is going to be a really good thing from the world. I am not being callous. I don't devalue the life. I know that we have lost people and we are continuing to lose people to this virus. And I don't want that in any way, shape, or form to seem as if I don't value those lives and the impact those people could have had or have had up until now. But I do believe that this situation is going to generate some very, very, very positive changes for the world. It's going to be good for every single one of us as an individual. And moreover, I think it's going to be good for the planet as a whole. It's very interesting just to see the changes already. So I just would encourage you to, keep that in mind. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for you to pivot your business, to be able to do something a little bit different. And, how can we do that? How can we do that so that your business still is functioning? You're still providing a high level of service. Maybe this is a great opportunity for you to try something you've always wanted to do, but you haven't had the chance to do, right? Maybe that's something possible. So I'm going to share this one story with you, and then I'm going to jump off for today. And again, like I said, we're going to do this live Q&A every Thursday, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard. So please join me next week, and hopefully next week I'll be able to make the Facebook on my desktop work. So I was chatting with a business owner probably about maybe 12 days ago. So coming on 2 weeks. This person had a mobile food truck. All right. They would go to corporations. They would go to big businesses, and they had standing appointments at different businesses that they would show up during the week. And then the office staff would come out and they would place their orders. They'd get whatever it was they wanted, and they'd go back into work. The company was doing quite well. Things were starting to grow. They were starting to get some contracts with some bigger businesses, which is really good. So they were really quite happy about how the growth was. They had bought a brand new, I believe it was a Mercedes Sprinter, brand new van, outfitted it entirely, made sure it was, looked great. It was the best of everything. Excuse me. I have a bit of a lingering cough, so you'll hear me every now and again, still coughing through it a little. They outfitted the van, they got everything ready, and then the whole situation changed. And they were going, oh my goodness, what the heck do we do? Now, some people might sit there and put their head in their hands and say, that's it, our business is done, because there's no possible way that we can keep going, right? Offices are closed, everybody's going remote. What the heck do we do? And throw up your hands and say, oh my God, okay, I guess I need to do something different. This person was different. This person reached out and we talked about some options of, what could they do? How could they pivot their business? I keep talking about pivoting their business because literally, if you think about, I keep thinking about I studied Muay Thai. So some of it is thinking about the Muay Thai. If you're in a fight, you need to pivot to catch the opponent on the other side. You can also think about basketball players if they pivot to pass the ball. I have lots of sports analogies. Anyway, so I keep thinking about pivoting your business because basically you've been moving in this direction and now all of a sudden the world has shifted over here. And if you don't move with it, then your business may not survive, right? And I don't need to tell you that is going to really blow if that's the situation. So anyway, so this person, we talked about what was possible. They had the beginning of an idea. So the beginning of their idea was, could they take this to people's homes? And how could they do so in a way that was still being respectful? Obviously, the fact that we need to be keeping our social distancing and we want to make sure that we're not causing any more of a problem. What could that look like? And how could they actually make that work? Like, how do we actually set it up so that they could, what would that look like? How do people pay for things? If we're not seeing people face to face, how do they pay for things? How do they order things, right? Things like that. So we spent about an hour and a half talking about different options because they already had the initial idea. The idea of, we've gone from the fact that there are these offices to now let's effectively because they were focused on one city, let's break the city out into zones and then we'll service specific zones on specific days of the week. So they already had the beginnings of the idea. So we dug into it. And what we figured out, we sort of broke down the menu into call it membership categories. So similar products, similar items. So for example, if they had let's call it sandwiches. I can't remember this product specifically, but they had a specific type of sandwich. Okay, so these sandwiches are in this, call it a membership group, right? So they pay so much per month. They get this many of, any of the sandwiches in this group. Then there's this more deluxe thing. Maybe it's poutine. I don't know if everybody knows what poutine is around the world, but I don't like it. It's fries with gravy and cheese and weird shit on it. But anyway, so that, then there's poutine. So what would the membership be to do that? We essentially took the entire menu, broke it down into reasonable sizes and groups of products that made sense to be grouped together. So then people could sign up for a membership. It would be a month-to-month situation. They could opt to have, say, a delivery once a week or twice a week or however it worked based on the zoning that the business had broken out the city into. And all of a sudden now it's like, okay, and how do we do that? So we talked about the specific platform that they're using and what are the tools and technology that they need to have to make those work. And so we figured out a lot. In an hour and a half, we figured out a lot. And so now this person is working on, putting this strategy into place. They need to redo the website a little bit. They need to adjust how they take sales. Everything before was done through their POS, right? Like in person through a card reader and stuff. And so now they need to adjust. It all has to go online. And, how can they deliver things? What kind of marketing are they doing? So we talked a little bit about their Instagram feed in particular. I said, your Instagram feed, you need to start talking about it, start sharing the story, start, think about things like that. We talked about how they're going to get the word out. One of the things that I suggested was, why don't you reach out to the companies that you used to have contracts with and probably still do? I don't think those contracts are dissolved, but they're obviously not working from the offices anymore. Reach out to them. Tell them what you're doing. Maybe you offer a corporate membership. There are lots of companies, I think, and I can't speak for all of them, but I think there are lots of companies that are also looking at how can they make working remote a bit more easy for their employees. So I said, maybe you position this as like a benefit that the company offers its employees. We know working from home kind of sucks. We're missing a lot of the connection that we have from being in person. And so we want to offer all of you a membership to this service, which will be effective, for a month or 2 months or however they want to structure it. There's no need to, when you're pivoting a business, you don't need to completely burn everything down and start fresh. You can take what you've built on before and you can find a way to use that differently. So the idea of saying we don't service these businesses anymore because everybody's working remote it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Instead, say, well, you already have this contact and they will have a company-wide email. Let's reach out to them and let's see how you can figure out how to approach those customers, right? What would that look like? So it's like I said, the business owner now is doing the work to be able to figure out how that's going to come together for them. But yeah, it was a very interesting conversation. And these are the kind of conversations that I want to have. So I'm going to wrap this up. I want to, first of all, thank you if you've joined me live. Thank you for tuning in today. For those of you listening on the podcast, thank you for listening to the podcast. Definitely follow me on Instagram at I Dare to Begin. I'll be posting about things like this regularly to remind you. If you are on Facebook and you haven't yet, you can like the I Dare to Begin page. I think it's, facebook.com/I Dare to Begin is where you can find me. I'm going to try next week to schedule that live video again. And fingers crossed it's going to actually work. I can actually start the live video so you can just follow the live video versus having to, sort of move with me as I try to figure out why my other video didn't work. So definitely tune in if you have questions. So as we're going to be wrapping up this Facebook Live right away, and for those of you listening on the podcast, you're not going to have the option to submit questions live. Please forward your questions to me, amy@daretobegin.net. Send them to me by email. Give me a little background on your business so I understand what it is that you're doing. And then let's talk about, what are the challenges that you're seeing. And on next week's Facebook Live, I will do another live Q&A where I'll actually take those questions and start working on some strategy with you. So definitely tune in if you can. And of course, if you can't, if the time doesn't work for you, then I've decided already that I'm going to be recording all of these Facebook Lives as a podcast so that you can catch them on the podcast after the Facebook Live. All right. It's been a pleasure sitting with you all today. Thank you so much for rolling with me as we figured out the technology. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're on the podcast, thank you so much for listening today. I really appreciate it. And so one of the things, one more last quick detail, and then I promise we're done. I mentioned on last week's podcast episode that you could go to daretobegin.net/strategy. That page is still under construction. As I mentioned early on, my hands have been full and I've been doing everything I can to get things going and make things go forward. But there's been some technical, no issues, just technical stuff that requires some time and attention. So that page is up and coming. The reason that I mention it, and again, the URL is daretobegin.net/strategy. You'll have the link to the Facebook page there for the free live Q&A every Thursday. But moreover, if you wanted to look into some more one-on-one options, I have 2 one-on-one options. One that includes 2 30-minute one-on-one sessions, but also includes my full Lost to Launched PDF program. And another one that includes 4 one-to-one sessions, includes the Lost to Launch PDF, and it also includes the Profit Power Pack, the full course of the Profit Power Pack. I don't remember the prices off the top of my head, but I can tell you that the way that I've set them, they're a ridiculous deal. So if you're looking for some more support, where you want to do some more one-on-one work with me and also take advantage of some of the programs that I've built specifically for you, please check that out, daretobegin.net/strategy. And hopefully by the time this podcast goes live, which will be on Tuesday, today is Thursday, hopefully by the time this podcast goes live, that page will be up and going. I'm quite certain it will be. So yeah, check it out, daretobegin.net/strategy. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.
Are you tired of figuring it out all on your own? Of sitting in overwhelm, knowing that you're not moving forward, but having no idea where or how to start? Are you ready to learn effective, profit-supporting strategies for your business so that you can finally earn the money you desire and step into the freedom that you're working so hard to create? If so, I invite you to join me inside the Launchpad. You'll get instant access to free training designed to meet you where you are right now and propel you forward toward the dream that you hold in your mind. It's time to make a powerful move toward your future. Time to step up and serve the people who desperately need your help. Let's not keep them waiting any longer. Today is the day. Join the Launchpad now. Just go to daretobegin.net/the Launchpad and sign up. Your success is inevitable. Now, let's launch it.